Good morning, everyone, and welcome again to Restore 2023. Proverbs 21 and 22. How are you getting on with Proverbs? Pithy sayings, putting a lot of truth over in just a few words, acting like a bit of a cattle prod now and then to keep us on track. It's one of the ways of writing in the Bible. Much wisdom literature is like this. The Bible uses all sorts of forms and genres to put over truth. It uses stories of both good and bad people to explain how things play out. It uses poetry and song, trying to demonstrate beauty in good times and bad. As a subtype of that, it also uses prophetic swirling pictures and visions. It uses prose, sometimes argument, sometimes description. And it uses short sayings, proverbs, and one-liners to help you remember important stuff and insert it into your everyday life. No doubt each of these will resonate with particular people, but we all ought to expand our horizons and find meaning in each of these methods. Are you used to long 40-minute plus sermons? Proverbs might require some adjustment, but it's good even for preachers to be succinct and not to waffle. After all, as they say, there's only a fine line between a long sermon and a hostage situation. Think of it this way. Proverbs are short, but they're good for chewing the cud and extracting all the taste, even though they're quite memorable. There's an example of this these days, say in liturgy. At the end of the Anglican Eucharist, the priest says, "Go in peace to love and serve the Lord." And the people respond, "In the name of Christ, Amen." That's profound stuff for the week. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Chew on that. But I'm starting to waffle myself now. What are the themes of these two chapters in front of us, chapters 21 and 22? Well, my goodness, they could hardly be more relevant. How do you live in an unjust society in a way that honours God? A society which doesn't think much of godliness, wants riches rather than justice, despises the poor, and where lies are everywhere. Where there's lots of bribery, violence, and big gaps between what people say and what they actually do. How do you put your trust in the Lord in the middle of all that? Well, these words were written somewhere around 500 to 600 BC, so these are plainly not new problems. God's people have been here before. Before you get a bit frantic, remember this: evil people are not in control. God is. And you know what? Those wicked rulers with no time for God, the Lord has their hearts in his hands and can channel them in any direction he chooses. You are not just in their hands, you're in God's hands, and so are they. Don't panic. What's more, God sees hearts, really sees, not just what they say or the image they choose to put across. Outward things are often a poor representation of inward things, but God isn't fooled for a moment. He knows your heart too. Be comforted. So far, so good, but what positive things can we do? Get on with a life of diligence and honesty, Proverbs says. You might think, what can I do? Little me. But actually, being a light in this world is a big thing. Light is aggressive to darkness just by being there. Rest assured, people will notice. Tell the truth. Let everyone know you're a person of integrity. Be gentle. Don't throw your weight around, even if you do have some clout. Just consistently do what's right, with or without an audience. Don't be aggressive and quarrelsome, says the teacher, always insisting on putting people right. Leave the wicked to God. He knows where they live. He'll sort them out. You be just, humble, gentle. Even if there are bribes flying about everywhere, Use God's good gifts, but live not for them, but for God himself. This is all a bit countercultural, isn't it? Yes, we are citizens of heaven walking through this world. Then the writer goes on to talk about our inner lives, our walk with God, and our hearts. Seek to be wise rather than popular or wealthy. Rich and poor are the same before God, who is maker of them all. Listen to God, really listen. Be humble before him and honour him, because the esteem of God is light years better than the esteem of men. Be generous from your heart, whether you have a lot or a little, and God will bless you. And yes, pass on the baton to your children. Teach them to reverence and love God with all their hearts and listen to him too. Now, they will do many things differently to the way you did them. You will teach them to fly, but they will not follow your flight path. Your job is to see they go with God and go in peace to love and serve the Lord. How will this godliness and generosity of heart play out before the world? Well, we've already talked about the high regard God has for generosity. Have a heart like his, and people will see, even if you're not making a big deal about it. The writer reminds people who think otherwise that if they become rich by exploiting the poor, they will most certainly find themselves face to face with God. If your heart is clean and your speech is gracious and kind, all sorts of people will want to talk with you and seek your counsel. You don't need to throw money around to make friends. But do pick your friends, people you really share yourself with. Avoid the hotheads and the easily angry. They're not good for you. Being a humble person of integrity before God is a powerful thing, whatever the rest of society is like all around you. Christ first, last, and in the middle. You remember the verse from the hymn, riches I heed not, nor man's empty praise. Thou my inheritance, now and always. Thou and thou only, the first in my heart. High King of heaven, my treasure thou art. God bless you today.